Hey, Jason here from Simply Swider. If your Maytag dishwasher has standing water in the bottom and won't drain, don't panic. I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it. The good news, most drainage problems are simple fixes that take under an hour and cost less than $50. We'll cover four main causes, starting with the most common clogs and working up to control board issues. Before we get started, if you run into any questions, jump into our Facebook group. Links in the description. We've got thousands of people helping each other fix their appliances, and I pop in there daily to help out. So, the biggest culprit, and I'm talking about 50% of the calls I get, is clogs and obstructions. Could be the drain hose, could be your sink's air gap, maybe the garbage disposal, or the dishwasher's own filter system. Here's what happens: food grease builds up over time, or someone accidentally drops a twist tie or sticker in there, and boom, water's got nowhere to go. I had this customer last month who called me in a panic. Turns out her husband installed a new garbage disposal but never removed that little plastic knockout plug. Water was backing up like crazy and she thought her dishwasher was toast. Here's how to check safely. First, turn off power to the dishwasher at the breaker. You'll need a bucket, towels, and pliers for this test. Look behind the unit or under your sink for kinked hoses. Then disconnect that drain hose at the sink end. Expect some water spillage here. Run a drain cycle and let it discharge into your bucket. If water flows out with good pressure, your clog is downstream in the plumbing or air gap. If it just trickles, the blockage is in the hose or pump itself. Don't ask me how I know this, but way too many people replace perfectly good pumps when the hose is just kinked or the air gap is clogged with gunk. Clean out the obstruction and you're usually golden. No parts needed unless the hose is actually damaged. Now, if your drainage problem isn't a clog, we're probably looking at the drain pump. This accounts for about 30% of the cases I see. This little guy forces water out of the sump and up through the drain hose. Two main ways it fails. Either something's physically jamming the impeller or the motor windings burn out electrically. Jamming is way more common. Broken glass, popcorn kernels, or plastic debris bypass the filters and get stuck in there. You'll hear a humming or buzzing sound during the drain cycle because the motor's getting power but can't spin. If it's completely silent, that usually means electrical failure. Here's how to test it. With power off, use your multimeter set to resistance mode. Touch the probes to the pump's wire terminals. You should see 15 to 40 ohms, which means the motor windings are intact. An infinite reading or 0 ohms means the motor has failed and needs replacement. But here's where most people mess up. They assume the pump is burned out when it's actually just jammed with debris. I remember this lady who was ready to buy a whole new dishwasher, pulled her pump, found a piece of glass wedged in the impeller, removed it, and boom, worked like new. If you're comfortable removing the toe kick panel and twisting the pump off, it's usually a quarter turn bayonet mount. This is definitely DIY territory. But if you need to pull the whole dishwasher out from the cabinetry, might be time to call someone like me. Here's something that trips up a lot of folks: the check valve or flapper. This accounts for maybe 15% of drainage problems, but it's sneaky because the symptoms can look like other issues. This little rubber valve prevents dirty water from flowing back into your dishwasher from the sink drain. Problem is, it can get stuck closed from sticky food residue, or the rubber can warp and tear over time, blocking water from getting out. Here's the telltale sign: water drains partially, but then comes right back, or it drains super slowly. To test it, first turn off power and disconnect the drain hose at the pump end. Look for a small rubber flapper. It might be built into the hose or separate. Here's the simple test: blow air through it. Air should flow easily away from the dishwasher, but be completely blocked when you try to blow back toward the machine. I've seen people replace expensive pumps because water wasn't moving when the valve was just glued shut with food debris. Clean it if it's stuck, replace it if the rubber is shot. Usually pretty accessible and a straightforward fix. Control board issues are actually the least common cause, maybe 5% of the drainage problems I see. This is the electronic brain that sends the 120-volt signal to the drain pump during the drain cycle. Sometimes the relay contacts fail from heat and vibration, or a power surge damages the board components. You might see error codes like F9E1, but here's the thing: that code can also mean you've got a clog, so don't jump straight to board replacement. The real
You know
test
what
is
to do,
using a
right?
multimeter to check for 120 volts at the pump connector during the drain cycle. If you're reading 0 volts and the wiring looks good, then yeah, probably the board. But I can't tell you how many times I've seen people replace a $200 control board when the real problem was a $15 clogged filter. This is definitely high risk DIY territory since you're working with live voltage. If you're not comfortable with multimeter testing, call a pro. The drain pump is going to run you about 90 to 150 for aftermarket, up to 315 if you go OEM. This is the part that actually moves the water out of the machine. Like I mentioned earlier, before you buy one, make sure it's actually bad and not just jammed with debris. I've saved customers hundreds of dollars just by pulling out a piece of glass or a twist tie. The pump typically mounts with a quarter turn bayonet system, so if you can access it from the front by removing the toe kick, it's a pretty straightforward 30-minute swap. If you need to pull the entire dishwasher out, plan for about 2 hours, including reconnection. Just remember to check that impeller. It should have some magnetic resistance when you spin it by hand, kind of a bouncy feel. If it spins completely free with no resistance, the impeller might be sheared off. The check valve or flapper is one of the cheaper fixes, anywhere from 15 to 90 bucks depending on your model and whether it's integrated into other components. Sometimes you can clean these things and they'll work fine. Other times the rubber's warped or torn and you need a new one. The key is making sure you're actually dealing with a valve problem and not a clogged hose that's mimicking the same symptoms. Easy way to test: air should flow one direction through the valve, but not the other. Control boards are the expensive option. You're looking at 150 to 250, sometimes more for newer models. Here's where you really got to be sure of your diagnosis because this is a no return part once you install it. The board controls the timing and power distribution for the entire machine. If it's not sending 120 volts to the pump during the drain cycle and your wiring checks out good, then yeah, probably the board. But I've seen way too many people throw expensive boards at drainage problems that were actually physical clogs or bad connections. Drain hoses are pretty cheap, 20 to 60 bucks usually. Most of the time you don't need to replace the hose, just clear whatever's clogging it. But if you find damage like cracks or the internal liner is deteriorating, replacement is straightforward. Just make sure you maintain that high loop under the counter. Prevents backflow and siphoning issues that can cause all sorts of weird problems. All right, if you're dealing with faulty parts, let's talk about what you're looking at cost-wise and when repair makes sense versus replacement. The good news is most of these fixes are way cheaper than a service call and definitely cheaper than buying a new dishwasher. Here's the simple rule: if your dishwasher is under 7 years old, pretty much any of these repairs make financial sense. If it's over 10 years old and you're looking at multiple part failures, might be time to start shopping. Now, before we wrap up, you can see right there on your screen the most common Maytag models that tend to have these drainage issues. Maybe you'll spot your own dishwasher in there. The MDB series units have some specific quirks with their grinder assemblies that can cause drainage problems even when the pump is fine. The Quiet Series models sometimes develop ribbon cable corrosion that affects both the control panel and drainage functions. And if you've got one of the newer models with advanced sensors, sometimes the leak detection system gets overly sensitive and triggers continuous draining cycles. That's how you tackle Maytag dishwasher drainage problems. Remember, this failure pattern isn't unique to Maytag. Any dishwasher with filtration systems, drain pumps, and check valves can develop these same issues over time. The diagnostic approach stays the same. Start with the simple stuff like clogs and obstructions, then work your way up to components and electronics. Most of the time, you're dealing with a physical blockage, not a catastrophic failure. Early warning signs matter too. If you're hearing new noises during the drain cycle or water seems to be draining slower than usual, that's usually debris starting to build up. Catch it early, and you're fixing a $0 cleaning problem instead of a $100 pump replacement. Here's your step by step checklist. First, check for clogs in the drain hose and air gap. This fixes 50% of cases. Second, test the drain pump for jams or electrical failure. Third, inspect the check valve for debris or damage. Finally, test the control board voltage if all else fails. Work through these in order, and you'll solve most drainage problems in under an hour. If this helped you get your dishwasher working again, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Let me know which fix worked for you. Really helps other people with the same problem. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We'll get this out to more folks who need to save some time and money. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.